And then, hi everyone, I am preparing to record, so we're all great and ready to go. So, hi Gina, how are you?
I'm great, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to be with you today.
Well, I'm really excited because expert profile conversations with influencers and innovators is actually one of my newer shows, and it's on the Be Connected network. So I'm learning how to do basically live TV. And so you're one of probably the first 10 people that I thought of to invite because you created Genuinely You, and you help people develop all of their leadership skills. And I'm not going to go a lot into your background because I think our conversation about leadership development will allow people to really get a handle on who you are. And then, of course, you can tell people how they can reach out to you. And you have a rather unique story. So let's start there. And tell me a little bit about how you ended up creating Genuinely You and your leadership development courses.
I started off life as a teacher. I was promoted very quickly, and I became the deputy of a large. I think in the US it would be a junior high school, very quickly, and I was promoted to be the catalyst for change. But during my first year as deputy, I had a serious ski accident, and as a result, I have spent a lot of time in a wheelchair and at time being wheelchair bound. Within about 4 months of the accident, my principal very suddenly died during the summer holidays, during the summer break. And I became acting principal and then was appointed to be the permanent principal. And I was absolutely determined that the children, the staff, the parents would have an opportunity to be part of somewhere that provided an excellent culture, an excellent education, a truly learning organization. And the gift of my disability was I couldn't physically get into the classrooms. So I had to find a way of getting people to take radical responsibility for their own learning and a shared responsibility for the team. It was very successful. We were on the best 100 schools in the country list twice during my tenure. And whilst I was a serving head, I worked for the National College of Leadership, the London Institute, as an advisor for the government. So when I left being a principal in 2004, because of my health, I wasn't ready to do nothing. And so I did a research project across industries to look at what were the issues facing companies in terms of leadership? How did they develop people? And what I recognize is the issues were the same, but very often their methodology of dealing with it was different. And in many ways, there were things that they could do that would make a real difference. So from 2005 until 2017, my business, Gina, Gardinrer Associates, which still exists, was based on working with people face-to-face within companies, helping them to become the leaders to become more productive, more profitable, but in a very holistic way and an enlightened way. But I got a sense that there was such toxic leadership in such a variety of contexts that I needed just to do something more. So in 2018, I set up Genuinely You. And the idea of that is to reach people globally, to give people the strategies, the principles that are tried and tested to help them step into their genuine power, to become authentically enlightened, profitable leaders. But to do that in a way where you nurture and grow your staff, where you make a positive difference, and that you leave a living legacy. So much of it is about purpose and recognizing that as a leader, you have to lead yourself first. You start with you. You have to be the role model. You have to be the standard for everybody else.
Well, that really does make a lot of sense, because leaders, I think that is something, because I know that I've been in business and I've had people who would do anything to help me because of something that they saw within me. So you've actually now created what is called Enlightened Profitable Leadership. Can you expand on that and tell me a little bit more about that?
The word enlightened for many people is perhaps a little vague, but for me it is that you have a level of awareness of the impact that everything you say or do, how you say it and do it, whether you say it or not, or do it or not, has on other people. That you are aware of the shifts of consciousness, because there's, for me as an enlightened, profitable leader, there is a spiritual context, which is around having a really strong sense of purpose, that you understand what it is you want to do within the world, and that part of that is making a positive difference to others, that you want to lead with integrity. And if you look around the world, there are so many examples of leaders who do not have integrity, who it's do as I say, not as I do, that they will be one thing to one group of people, but something completely different to another. So enlightened leadership is about valuing all people for the contribution they make, having compassion and understanding that if you are privileged and you are a leader in that way, that is a privilege to be a leader. That comes with responsibilities, and being compassionate and understanding the challenges that other people have is really, really important. And having the courage to step out of the crowd. And I think we live at an amazing time in history. And if you think about what's going on in the world, the thinking that got us here isn't going to be the thinking that takes us out of the mess that we're in. We need leaders who are prepared to think creatively, but who also understand that, as I say, every choice has consequences. And those who want to lead in a way which gets the best out of their people. Your people are your treasure. And, you talked about somebody seeing something in you. And I think that's the sign of somebody who is a great leader, whether they've got the role, the title role or not, is identifying the potential of other people and nurturing it, believing in them when perhaps they don't believe in themselves. It's about being the beacon of hope and light, which says, we're going to go this way because this is our vision, these are our core values. And the expectation is we will all behave in line with our core values, and I will be the model. Now, that doesn't mean that people are perfect. Ultimately, we all fall below the line. But enlightened leaders are very self-reflective, and they understand that their actions, or lack of them, require thought. So they move out of the 95% of the population which thinks habitually, and they become mindful thinkers. They become conscious of their thinking, of their emotions, of their actions, and they do everything they can to support other people growing. And the interesting thing is, and I've worked with many, many businesses, but what's been proven to me time and time again, when you focus on creating a holistic, enlightened way of leading, the profits come. And I'm talking about the financial profits, not the prophets who wear, white robes and, who come out of the wilderness. That holistically, sustained success and profits come from working with people in this enlightened way, and recognizing you have to start with you, and your best self of today is the foundation for the best self of tomorrow and next week and next month. It's not a done and dusted, it's an evolution, it's an ongoing process. And for me, I'm passionate about helping people do this. And as I say, the reality is that those organizations that I've worked with for more than 9 or 10 months, staff are happier and more productive. that their customers are happier, that they are far more productive, and that the profits start to rack up in terms of finances, because how they are operating is just in a very different way that attracts customers. So you're not cutting your prices to be the cheapest on the block, but you are saying you value us because we're the best on the block. And so you provide that service, that product or whatever in a way that encourages loyalty and people wanting to buy from you.
That makes a lot of sense, especially now as we're coming out of the pandemic, and many people, they were working from home, and they're like re-entering a different world in the workforce. And again, you're in England or in the London area. I'm in the United States, and here people are really reevaluating if they even want to go back into the workforce in the way that it was before, because they want to be valued. So I think that's really important. You work with people, like you said, you start with the person. So how do you work with them, and what is that inner work that you think is important that people do as they develop their leadership abilities?
I see these as twin streams, if you like, that intertwine.
Yes.
You are the common denominator in your life. So this is leadership for life. It not only has an impact on your business, but also on your personal life, your family, your relationships, and so on. So starting with people, I would say that the first place to start is, what are people's beliefs about? And we have beliefs about everything. But if your belief, and I've met and worked with so many people who are very, very successful, but they have this imposter syndrome that, I'm going to be found out that I'm useless, or they have poor self-worth, or they don't believe that they can succeed. I'm not good enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not enough. So starting with them in terms of, what are your beliefs about the world? What are your beliefs about success? So many of the people watching this will be familiar with Roger Bannister. He ran the first 4-minute mile. And it's quite interesting, the Olympics are on as we do this, and many people are reaching their personal best and running faster, throwing further, doing better than they ever thought possible. Roger Bannister was told by the medics of the time, if you run that fast, you will die because you won't get enough oxygen. Now, I find it quite incredible that he did it. But what's even more incredible, as far as I'm concerned, is that within 1 month, 30 other people had done it too. Why? Because they believed it was possible. So in order to succeed in a way that is outside your known, you have to start thinking about things in a different way. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And so working with people's beliefs, their relationship with themselves, their attitude towards things, do they self-sabotage? What baggage are they carting around with them that's getting in the way? All of these things need to be dealt with if you're going to be operating at your best self level. But of course, it's all tailored to the individual. Whilst there are certain common strands, it is important that people recognize that you are a unique being. There is only one of you, and you come with a unique set of experiences, beliefs, attitudes, and so on. But recognizing that our beliefs become our reality is really important. If you believe you'll fail, it's a done deal. If you believe you'll succeed, even if you don't know how, you are more likely to succeed. But I think many people are stuck in the middle, which is, I fear I will fail. They don't know they'll fail, so they do get started, but because they're fearful, they'll make a very different set of decisions then I will succeed. I just need to find a way to do it that it sits in line with my values and so on. But I'll be curious and I'll explore, and failure is an opportunity to learn rather than I will fail. It's I will learn. And so, getting people to move from that place of fear into a place, call it love or call it positivity, optimism. And I'm not talking about blind optimism here, it's about informed optimism. Then people will start to operate in a significantly different way.
It's really interesting that you talk about that, and back to the runner, you said that, if you do this, you will die due to lack of oxygen. And it's like he did it anyway. And then 30 other people ran the 4-minute or less mile. And I don't even know what it is now, but I know it's under.
A lot less than that, I believe, yes.
But isn't that interesting? Because it really does apply to our work or our lives in general. Because if I've recognized that, millionaires can lose their millions and then they just go become a millionaire doing something else. And I've always looked at that and I've always thought, well, that because they did it once, they know they can do it. So they just rinse and repeat and they do it again. But so many people do get stuck, like you said, in that imposter syndrome, or in that area where it's not that they don't believe that they can't do it. It's they go, well, I think I can do it. But that fear of failure, or what will people think, and they stop because they haven't done it yet. And then, of course, yes, the fear of failure, becomes almost the fear of success.
I think it's, sorry to interrupt, but I think as many people are fearful of succeeding as they are of failing. And I think it's a really important point that you bring up, that, if I succeed, will people still like me? If they have a belief that, money is the root of all evil, well, if I succeed, am I going to become evil? Will it be ego driven? So our beliefs become our reality. We behave in a way that reinforces whatever our beliefs are. So they do become who we are, but they don't have to be. They're often installed when we're very tiny, when a parent or a teacher or somebody says something and we believe it. And that becomes, it becomes hard and fast. So a parent says to a child, oh, you are stupid. The child believes they're stupid. They then look for evidence of what they can't do rather than focusing on what they can do. See, dad or mum said or my teacher said I was stupid. Look, there's the evidence, I can't do that. Right. But when you say to those same children, you don't become an expert the first time you do it. I mean, when you got behind a wheel for the first time in a car, were you an expert driver?
No, but now I think I'm a darn good driver. I mean,
but it takes practice, doesn't it? It takes times when you crash the clutch and when you have a near miss because you've not really taken in everything before you become a great driver. And the 4 levels of consciousness. To start with, you don't know how bad you are, unconscious incompetence, and then you're consciously incompetent because you know how bad you are. And then you get to the place where when you're driving, it's, oh, I must mirror signal maneuver. That's the level of conscious competence. And then when you drive as you do now, I'm sure you do the same as me. Sometimes you're not conscious of driving, you just drive. You've achieved mastery, unconscious competence. And that's what we want for leaders, is that they will behave in a way as an enlightened, profitable leader at a level of unconscious competence because it's become who they are.
I really like that, because when you mentioned that, when I was a very small girl, some person told me I couldn't sing. And it has taken me a long time to even actually sing aloud because of something that somebody said to me when I was just a little girl, singing in church. And when you're a little kid and you believe Jesus loves you, You just felt that out and someone said something to me. So if you had any advice for people who are facing some challenges, what do maybe give me 3 different pieces of good advice that someone could leave with today and apply to their lives?
Okay, so first and foremost, take radical responsibility for your thoughts, emotions, your actions, and your words. And recognize that by doing so, let's take emotion. If you are the owner of your emotions and you take radical responsibility for that, nobody can make you unhappy or upset. You won't allow them to. And so people who are bullied will find that by taking radical responsibility for themselves doesn't mean being aggressive. It just means that you don't take on board that other person's comments, because it says more about that other person than it does about you. So taking radical responsibility, create a great relationship with yourself. And if you don't really love who you are, that doesn't mean being indulgent. It's not about buying yourself donuts and cream cakes. It is about loving who you are, wobbly bits and all. Make a great relationship with yourself, because you are enough. And I'd say recognize that your perception becomes your reality, but it is not the only reality. So you could look at things that are going on as a real challenge. And I am not trying to make light of the difficulty that many people have been through and are going through. But if you focus on what you can't do, then that becomes the only reality. If you focus on what you can do and see this as an opportunity to rethink, to reflect, to do things differently, then you open the door to possibilities. So I would say to people who are listening and watching, do an audit of your beliefs, of your perceptions, of your relationship with you, and start to work on those. Because ultimately, you take yourself into every situation, every moment of every day. You can't blame other people. That puts you into the position of victim. You can't blame the government. You can make a difference. And if you think you can't, spend the night in a room with a mosquito and know that something very small can make a difference. And if each of us makes a difference, decision by decision, actively, consciously, we can affect real change.
Wow, spend the night in a room with a mosquito. Yeah, that one little thing can really make a huge difference in your life. I'm so happy that I spoke with you today, because it's really opening my eyes, like in myself, that how I literally I've blocked myself sometimes, and then other times I've really opened myself up. And when I've opened myself up to the success and said, up yours, fear.
It's a great approach.
I have been successful. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about empaths before I ask you some other questions, because I know that I am very empathic, and I'm to the point where it was scary when I was developing some of my skills, because I could feel, like, for example, other people's pain, and I was like, I don't want to feel other people's pain. But what does that mean? Because you emphasized working with empathic people. So tell me a little bit more about that.
We all have the capacity to be empathic, to recognize things from other people's point of view. Being an empath, I think in the past, the title has been taken over by those who can commune with the dead and who can to do things beyond our ken. We all have the capacity to tune into our inner wisdom. We all have the opportunity to tune into greater consciousness. We are all connected, and there is the capacity for all of us to get rid of the white noise and to really make contact with that inner self. People often think of it as being pink and fluffy, But Warren Buffett is quite open about the fact that he did not listen to his intuition early on in his career, and it cost him $1 billion. The guy who owns Virgin Atlantic, whose name always escapes me, he talks about using his intuition to, thank you very much, yes, Richard Branson. Why does his name keep eluding me? But he uses his intuition to ask the questions. Have I got the right data? Have I got enough data? Is the data coming from a valued source? Do I need to take notice of this data, or should I do something completely different? And so each in their way are using their empathic leadership to take their organization to the next level. And I think that as we move into this new era of consciousness, the recognition that we are connected to each other, to the environment, to a greater source, whatever you call that, whether you call it God or you call it the universe, we are all connected. And recognizing as a leader that when you tune into that connection and get out of your way, as you've just said, it's just tell fear, actually, you're there to keep me safe, but the reality is that you're no longer keeping me safe, you're keeping me playing small. And so, thank you, but I don't need your help at this moment, go away. And then when you open that opportunity, then great things happen, that success happens, but so many people sabotage themselves. But I work with leaders of all sorts. I help them to understand that they can lead in a more enlightened, empathic way. But I also work with people who see themselves as empaths, because many of them are self-sabotaging. And we are at a time in our history where empaths are here for a purpose. They're here to become the leaders of leaders. And they need to get out of their own way, deal with old baggage and some of the beliefs that they hold, which are certainly holding them back. And so I've done a lot of work with empaths, and I provided resources for empaths. You can find some on YouTube or on my website, GinaGardinerassociates.co.uk, that are designed very specifically for those people who identify themselves as empaths. But in terms of enlightened empathic leaders, it is encouraging people who perhaps have never heard the word to recognize that they have access to those resources, those inner resources, if they choose.
I think you're right, because people are starting to recognize it isn't, like you said, pink and fluffy anymore. And leaders, like Richard Branson, he just went into space. Of course, Warren Buffett, very well respected. I guess he's a billionaire.
I think so, yes.
It's funny because I noticed it used to be people talked about millionaires. People don't talk about millionaires anymore. They just talk about billionaires. And I always find that so interesting. But I always want to know, in your opinion, what is your big message and your big mission that you are bringing to the world now?
My big message is you are the leader of your own life if you choose to be. And to be a leader in your own life means you have to take ownership of the story that you're creating, whether you are the victim or the hero. And it's my belief that we all are here and that we have a purpose. And when you can define what that purpose is and live to your purpose, and for me, purpose always has, it's always about service to others. Because if you're leading, then how are you nurturing the people that follow you, whether that's as a parent, as a friend, within an SME, or in a big conglomeration, or as a country. And so getting the message out there that you start with yourself, that, how are you treating other people? What are the beliefs that you have about others, and how is that impacting on you? How can we get people to come from a place of love? And I'm not talking about pink and fluffy love. I'm talking about high expectations that rely on you seeing the potential in other people. And I don't care what color, what creed, what shape, what gender, what sexual orientation, what ability, in terms of disability you have something to offer this world. And, what do you want your legacy to be? People talk about leaving a legacy when they die, but you leave a legacy with every word. You leave a legacy with every action or lack of it. How you say things, when you say things, who you say them to, leaves a shadow. If you're unkind, that leaves a dark shadow. If you are kind, you leave a light shadow. So kindness, gratitude, being loving to other people is my message in terms of every individual. My mission is to positively impact on 1 million people in the next 5 years through the development of enlightened, profitable leadership, because that 1 million people will, like stones being thrown into a pond, ripple out. And they talk about the critical mass. It's not many to create a shift in the way in which the way people live their lives. And my goodness me, we need to shift. If we are to survive as a human race without killing one another or without killing the planet, we need to shift. We need to do things differently.
Well, that is a big message and a big mission. And I'm glad that you're here sharing that with us, because I really think, like you said, that enlightened leadership is really important. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
They can email me at Gina, Gina, at genuinely, and then a hyphen and the word you. My websites are genuinely-you.com. If you're interested in enlightened leadership, there is a 10-month accredited program. Go to enlightenedleadership.co. And there's lots of programs on GinaGardnerAssociates.co.uk for empaths and for leaders. Subscribe to the Genuinely You YouTube channel. There's lots of resources there, lots of free resources, and all of my books are on Amazon, and there are loads of self-help and journals and workbooks that people can take a theme, and then it's set up to give them the principles, and then they can work through for themselves in terms of helping themselves move forward. So lots of ways, but if you're really interested in connecting, Gina, Gina, at genuinely-you.com, and listen to the W4CY TV and radio show, which is on at 1 o'clock on a Thursday Eastern time. And we have lots of great guests and lots of themes around leadership for life.
Well, super. So I think, again, everyone, I will make sure that all of the hot links are put there so you're literally just going to be a click away from being able to connect with Gina. And before I let you go, Gina, is there anything that you'd like to add before I sign off?
I would just say thank you to you and to the listeners. Recognize that you are a powerful being if you choose to be, that you can write the story of your own life. Be the hero or heroine rather than the victim. And, just take a step forward, one step at a time. You don't have to do it all at once, but just a small change consistently done can make a real difference. And if you need to, reach out and get some help.
Well, one step at a time, just like habits. It's just one little thing at a time. So thank you so much, Gina. I really appreciate the time you took today to be on Expert Profiles, Conversations with Influencers and Innovators. And I'll invite you back again another time. And everybody do go check out all of the resources that Gina has to offer. And if you're interested in becoming one of the enlightened leaders of today, definitely check out her course, because as you can tell, she knows what she's talking about. And I know that everything you talked about today, it really resonated with me. And I mean, I can already see all I need to do is like you said, is tell fear to get lost so that I can keep moving forward with the bigger dreams. So everyone, thank you again. This is Dr. Reverend Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.